Hi, welcome back to the channel. Last week, some of you may have seen me lose my cool just a little bit, or maybe a lot, when I was talking about some of the changes that were proposed by the Government of Canada in this new budget. And in this video, I want to just quickly address the new proposed changes for capital gains tax. This is actually something that's going to affect me down the road, and it's going to affect a lot of you that have cabins or secondary properties like rental properties, things of that nature. What we'll do is I've built a spreadsheet that compares side by side the old rules to the new rules so you can see exactly how it will affect your situation. And at the end, what I'll do is I'll put my email in the description. If you want to have access to this spreadsheet, I'm happy to share it. It's no problem, so just let me know. Anyways, let's get into the spreadsheet. All right, so here we are on Budget Canada's website where they lay out all the different proposed changes. And here's the section that I want to highlight in this video. They're proposing an increase to the capital gain inclusion rate, from half to 2/3 of the portion of capital gains realized in excess of $250,000. And they're proposing that this starts at the end of June of this year. So given that it's only on gains in excess of $250,000, this really is going to apply more to the more major markets like Toronto, Vancouver, things of that nature. And in the example I'm going to show in a second, you're going to see like a larger example along with a smaller one, because I just wanted to kind of compare and contrast how much this is going to impact you. So let's look at that. So before we jump into the comparison, I'll just go through a scenario here in today's rule. So the old CG or capital gains rules here. So if you had a property worth $1 million and you had what's called an ACB or an adjusted cost base. So this is what you purchased the property for, plus any receipts that you can prove. But your ACB was $350,000. It means you have a capital gain of $650,000. That doesn't change in the new rules. Everything so far is the same. Here's where the difference comes. On the old rules, no matter how much gain you had, 50% of it was included as taxable capital gain. So on the first $250,000 and on the next $400,000, it was all at 50%, meaning that the taxable capital gain as of today in April is $325,000. Assuming a tax rate of 50%, which I know is high, when I'm doing planning and projecting on this kind of thing, I like to plan around 50%. The reality is if you were to pass away and have a secondary property like this flood into the estate, your tax rate will be high, but it'll probably be more like 40 to 45% in most cases, not in all. So I like to plan around 50 and have a little bit of extra conservativeness built in. Anyways. Meaning that in today's world, you would have in hand before legal and real estate fees, I'm not including any of that, $837,500. The new rules, again, same thing to the capital gain. The first $250,000, no change to the inclusion rate. It's everything above a $250,000 that it increases to 2/3 from half. Meaning that the taxable capital gain would raise from $325,000 to $393,000, meaning that the tax would raise from $162,500 to $196,500. It's a $34,000 reduction in how much money you would have in your hand after this transaction if you waited till July as opposed to right now. So you can see also, because of the nature of this rule, you can see how it's definitely going to impact larger, more expensive markets a lot more. I have a smaller example here as well. And this one's actually very close to me. I mentioned in the intro, this is going to hit home with my family because we do have a family cottage. And the family cottage has been in the family for, I think, over 70 years. It was not my grandfather, but his dad, so my great grandfather that built it. And while the property is full of memories and nostalgia and emotions, objectively, as a piece of property, it's nothing spectacular. Sorry, Dad. I love the cabin, don't get me wrong. And it's worth probably not even $300,000 as of right now, but I rounded it there because I wanted to kind of show how this worked. Our ACB is about 40,000 from when it transitioned to my dad from my grandfather 25 years ago. And meaning that in our case, the change is only going to be on $10,000 worth of gain, right? So remember, the first 250,000 is staying at 50%, and we'll only have 260,000 of gain at most, meaning that our total reduction in cash in hand, if we were to sell the cabin, would only be $850. So for those of us that are in smaller markets or have smaller cabins or have had a rental property for maybe only 5 or 6 years and you've only experienced $200,000 of gain versus those who have had their rental properties in Toronto for 20 or 30 years, for those of us in smaller markets, this isn't a massive impact to what we'll be looking at. For those of you watching that are in Toronto and have secondary properties, whether they be cabins or rental properties, this is going to be a big planning issue for you for the next 3 months. And I'll take this spreadsheet one step further by going here. I copied and pasted the original comparison here on $1 million property with a $350,000 ACB, except at the bottom, I wanted to match up. I want to get the same amount of money in my hands. So how much do I have to now increase the price of my house or secondary property? And it now has to jump to $1,051,128 to get within 12 cents of the original $837,500 in hand, which that's close enough for me for today at the very least. So will your property in the next 3 months go up by $51,000? I'm certainly not going to tell you that it is or isn't. That's not even close to what my job is. But if that $30,000 reduction, $34,000 reduction that is proposed to go through at the end of June is going to make a big impact for you, it may be time for you to consider selling your property now and trying to extract your $837,000 based on the $1 million now, as opposed to waiting until July when you have to sell for even more. Again, I'm not a real estate expert. I'm not trying to forecast on real estate or anything like that. I'm just trying to show the impact of what this would be. So I found it really, really interesting. Again, this very much is going to affect those of you in large markets significantly more than us here in the prairies and smaller markets like Winnipeg and Western Ontario. But I thought this was really interesting. So that's a quick summary of the proposed capital gains inclusion rate change from the Government of Canada. If you found this interesting, let me know. If you want to have access to this spreadsheet, let me know. I'm happy to email it to you. It's no problem. I will put my email in the description below. There's also going to be a link in the description below if you want to reach out and have a conversation about your financial plan. It will be there as well. Until next time, keep planning.